Well, good afternoon, welcome. We're here standing together with the working men and women of this country. You know, right now in Washington, there's an argument, a battle raging. And it's a battle raging between the Washington swamp and the working men and women of this country.
Hey.
God bless you, ma'am.
Hey. God bless you.
I'm standing here with men and women who work at refineries here on the East Coast whose jobs are at risk, whose jobs are threatened by a broken regulatory system that is threatening to take the jobs of union members across this country, to take the jobs of tens of thousands of working men and women. This all centers around what's called a RIN. A RIN is a renewable identification number. It is a made-up license from the EPA. That when it was introduced, everyone was told these things would cost just 1 to 2 cents each. And for the first couple of years, that's what happened, but then the RIN system broke. And RINs skyrocketed as high as $1.40 each. What is the consequence of that? The consequence of that is that you're seeing refineries driven into bankruptcy. PES, the largest refinery on the East Coast, declared bankruptcy because of the cost of RINs. In 2010, PES paid $10 million in RINs in regulatory costs. Last year, they paid $218 million, more than double the cost of their payroll. Now, I ask you, how many businesses can afford to pay essentially regulatory fines of more than twice the cost of their payroll? This is a broken system. And fortunately, there's a solution. There's a solution that is a win-win solution. There's a solution that the President has heard, has listened to, has expressed support for. The solution is capping the regulatory cost on RINs so that the men and women behind me can keep their jobs. You're looking at generations of working men and women, 2, 3 generations at these refineries that have provided for their families, that have sent their kids to college, that have paid their home mortgages, that put food on the table. And all of these jobs are at risk. And the critical thing to understand is, of all of those billions of dollars going to RINs, none of it is going to corn farmers. That money doesn't go to Iowa corn farmers. That money doesn't even go to ethanol producers. That money is going primarily to Wall Street speculators and giant oil companies, predominantly overseas oil companies. It doesn't make any sense at all to be bankrupting U.S. companies, to be driving union members, working men and women out of their jobs because of a broken regulatory system. And there is a win-win solution that will allow corn farmers to sell more corn and at the same time save the jobs of the men and women who are here. And we're right in the middle of a big debate in Washington, because I'll tell you, the Washington lobbyists are pushing back hard. The Washington lobbyists have decided they don't want to save these jobs. The Washington lobbyists are saying, don't worry about the refinery workers. It's okay if they lose their jobs. You don't need to do anything to step in and save those jobs. The Washington swamp is trying with all its might to say, don't worry about the working men and women of this country. But I will say I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic. For one thing, it is the working men and women across this country who elected President Trump in 2016. The Washington swamp doesn't want to answer their concerns, but I am hopeful, I believe President Trump is going to do the right thing, that he's going to hear the concerns of the jobs here that are being bankrupted by a failed regulatory system and step in. The President can solve this problem. The President can save these jobs, and he can do it in a win-win that keeps these refineries going, that doesn't bankrupt them, that at the same time allows corn farmers across the country to sell even more corn. The only people that lose are the Wall Street speculators. And there are plenty of other things they can speculate on. They don't need to be speculating on things that are costing people jobs. There are tens of thousands of jobs on the East Coast, across the country, and in my home state of Texas that depend on standing up and defending blue-collar, working men and women, union members. I'm proud to stand with the steel workers who are here today. I'm proud to stand with the working men and women of this country. And I am encouraged that as we stand together, the President is going to hear and respond to the cry of the men and women who stood with him and stop a broken regulatory system from taking their jobs.